Hello and welcome to Effective Christian Worship Podcast published by Zikron Music. In this episode, we will be speaking on 25 facts about worship. Fact number 1. Worship is for all the nations, to bring glory to the name of our great God. Psalm 86 verses 9-10. KJV says, All nations whom thou hast made shall come and worship before thee, O Lord, and shall glorify thy name. For thou art great, and doest wondrous things, thou art God alone. Fact number 2. Worship is done with gladness of heart, singing happy songs before God. Psalm 100 verses 2. NLT says, Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him, singing with joy. Fact number 3. True worshippers worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Gospel according to St. John chapter 4 verses 23. NLT says, But the time is coming, indeed it's here now, when true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way. Fact number 4. Our worship must be unto God only. Gospel according to St. Luke chapter 4 verses 8. KJV says, And Jesus answered and said unto him, Get thee behind me, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Fact number 5. By allowing deceit in your heart, you can turn your back on God and worship other gods. Deuteronomy chapter 11 verses 16. KJV says, Take heed to yourselves, that your heart be not deceived, and yet turn aside, and serve other gods, and worship them. Fact number 6. True worship is really defined by the importance of God in our daily lives. Epistle of Paul to the Romans chapter 12 verses 1. Amplified version says, Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies, dedicating all of yourselves, set apart as a living sacrifice, holy and well-pleasing to God, which is your rational, logical, intelligent, act of worship. Fact number 7. Worshipping God without a heart of worship is nothing but a memorized human rules and tradition. The book of prophet Isaiah chapter 29 verses 13. Message Bible says, The Master said, These people make a big show of saying the right thing, but their hearts aren't in it. Because they act like they're worshipping me but don't mean it. Fact number 8. Worshipping God also involves giving a thankful offering. Gospel according to St. Matthew chapter 2 verses 11. KJV says, And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down, and worshipped him, and when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold, and frankincense, and myrrh. Fact number 9. Worshipping God brings about irrevocable victories over your enemies. 2 Kings chapter 17 verses 39. Amplified version says, But the Lord your God you shall fear and worship, then he will rescue you from the hands of all your enemies. Fact number 10. One of the important ways of worship is worshiping God with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. Epistle of Paul to the Ephesians chapter 5 verses 19. KJV says, Speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord. Fact number 11. Worshipping God is like offering a pleasing sacrifice, which involves praising God at all times and telling others the glory of his name. The book of Hebrews chapter 13 verses 15. KJV says, By him therefore let us offer the sacrifice of praise to God continually, that is, the fruit of our lips giving thanks to his name. Fact number 12. Either by bowing down to the ground, laying flat on the ground, or kneeling down in reverence and sincerity of heart to our God, it's all about worship. Psalm 95 verses 6. KJV says, O come, let us worship and bow down, let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. Fact number 13. Worshipping God is eternal, just as we worship God on earth, we will continue when we get to heaven. The book of Revelation chapter 4 verses 9-11. KJV says, And when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne, and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. Fact number 14. There is a connection between worship and healing. You can get healed simply by worshiping God. The book of Exodus chapter 23 verses 25. KJV says, "Worship the Lord your God, and his blessing will be on your food and water. I will take away sickness from among you." Fact number 15. Worshipping God is not limited to our personal or private worship, we are also expected to worship together with other believers. Acts of the Apostles chapter 2 verses 42. NKJV says, "And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, in the breaking of bread, and in prayers." Fact number 16. God desires our absolute loyalty and exclusive devotion, we must not worship any other god but him. The book of Exodus chapter 34 verses 14. KJV says, "For thou shalt worship no other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God." Fact number 17. Musical instruments can also accompany our songs of worship. 2 Chronicles chapter 29 verses 28. Amplified version says, "The entire congregation worshipped, the singers also sang, and the trumpets sounded, all this continued until the burnt offering was finished." Fact number 18. Worship God in your difficult times and you will come out of it victoriously, it will certainly be well with you. Ecclesiastes chapter 8 verses 12. Amplified version says, "Though a sinner does evil 100 times and his life seemingly is prolonged in spite of his wickedness, still I know that it will be well with those who reverently fear God, who fear and worship him openly realizing his omnipresence and his power." Fact number 19. The life of a worshipper is a life of abundance. The book of Exodus chapter 23 verses 25. Contemporary English version says, "Worship only me, the Lord your God. I will bless you with plenty of food and water and keep you strong." Fact number 20. Even if you are not getting what you want, still choose to worship God. The book of Prophet Habakkuk chapter 3 verses 17 to 18. NKJV. "Though the fig tree may not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, though the labor of the olive may fail, and the fields yield no food, though the flock may be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord, I will joy in the God of my salvation." Fact number 21. Our worship unto God must be purified, the same mouth we use in worshiping God should not be used in placing curses on people. Gospel according to St. James chapter 3 verses 10 to 12. NLT says, "And so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this is not right. Does a spring of water bubble out with both fresh water and bitter water? Does a fig tree produce olives, or a grapevine produce figs? No, and you can't draw fresh water from a salty spring." Fact number 22. Our worship unto God, which is contained in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, also serves as our source of teaching and admonition. Epistle of Paul to the Colossians chapter 3 verses 16. KJV says, "Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord." Fact number 23. When we worship, we make unimaginable things happen through the mighty power of God that is functioning in us. Epistle of Paul to the Ephesians chapter 3 verses 20 to 21. NLT says, "Now glory be to God, who by his mighty power at work within us is able to do far more than we would ever dare to ask or even dream of, infinitely beyond our highest prayers, desires, thoughts, or hopes. May he be given glory forever and ever through endless ages because of his master plan of salvation for the church through Jesus Christ." Fact number 24. Worship that accompanies prayer brings about instant testimonies. Acts of the Apostles chapter 16 verses 25 to 26. KJV says, "And at midnight Paul and Silas prayed, and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and every one's bands were loosed." Fact number 25. God deserves our worship because he is the giver of life. The book of Nehemiah chapter 9 verses 6. Amplified version says, "And Ezra said, You are the Lord, you alone, you have made the heavens, the heaven of heavens with all their host, the heavenly bodies, the earth, and everything that is on it, the seas and everything that is in them. You give life to all of them, and the heavenly host is bowing down in worship to you." Thank you for listening. You can connect with us for more episodes. Follow us on our Facebook and Instagram pages at Zikron Music or visit our website at www. Zikron.digitals365.com. God bless you. Amen.